Okay. Hi, Katie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. So tell me a little bit just about your clinic. Are you a solo practitioner? Whereabouts are you in the States, and what kind of acupuncture you practice?
I'm a solo practitioner in New York City.
And are you practicing a specific type of acupuncture, or specifically helping like a subset group of patients, like in uh, like menstrual care, or like is there a specialty?
Oh, sure. No, you know what? I classify myself as internal medicine. But of course, I don't turn away any any client, but it turns out that most of my clients are seeking internal medicine uh type of treatment.
And how long have you been practicing for?
About 5 years.
Oh wow. Okay, cool. And so was it always in New York?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. I just have all these things about New York. I'm like, it must be so busy and like it's just lots of people there. So when you started your practice, what did you start using for record note taking?
My first experience with acupuncture software was, oh my goodness, of course, I'm drawing a blank as you ask me this. Um, and it's one of the more popular ones. Um, if you said it, which this is
Simple, unified practice.
Unified Practice. There we go. Thank you very much. It was Unified Practice. And, I felt at the time just starting out, I could afford it. It was manageable, but I didn't think that I needed it at the time. I wasn't there yet. I was seeing maybe 10 to 15 clients per week. So I felt at that time I would just stick to paper records. And I'm very systematic. So I created my own little template. And I realized throughout that year that I was on Unified Practice, I thought, well, there's so many of these things that I don't really use or need, and it sort of takes away from me just listening to the client. And so, I just stuck to paper notes, and then that actually got a bit more cumbersome because I found that I was getting behind on my notes. I had stacks and stacks of papers and then notebooks and binders with nowhere to store this stuff. In New York City, you have really nowhere to store anything because real estate, you get like 200 square feet per, you know. So I was looking for something more simple and, Happy Charting seemed to have everything that I needed at this time. And it's just been great. So I'm happy to be here.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear. I appreciate it so much. So how long were you on unified practice for when you first started out?
It was just that year, just 1 year. And afterward, and disappointingly, they did say that I could take all of my notes with me. But what I found that when I was able to download, I think all of the back data, it was very difficult to read. So unfortunately, I don't go back to those notes. And a lot of those patients, some have come and gone, and so really in this year after starting with paper, I mean, good thing I have all those notes still somewhere. Um, but with Happy Charting, I feel that I can start fresh, and really I'm able to still look at the first treatment that I used Happy Charting with. So I go back through my notes quite regularly. So it's a nice refresher. Um, so
Mhm.
that's made me happy.
Oh, yay. Okay, so you used unified practice for the first year and then you migrated back onto paper. And so then it was about 4 years that you're on paper?
Yes. So Unified Practice for 1 year, I went to paper records, and then I just found that at around year three with the paper, I just thought there's really no way that I can keep up with this. I also wasn't really looking back at, if I had a patient for 3 years, I really wasn't looking back that far to see what we were doing because I had just binders and binders of notes. Um, so I just found that I needed to go back into another software. But while I was doing all the research, I just found that all of these software platforms just offer a bit too much. I don't need that much. I just, again, I need something very simplified, something very basic where I don't really have to like learn what all the buttons are. And it wasn't, I'm very non-complicated. I'm not like super high tech. I didn't need all of these like bells and whistles. So yeah, and that's when I found you guys and I just thought this is exactly what I need.
Oh, amazing. That is exactly why we made it because yeah, oh, just everything you said, I love it. So, okay, so with the paper, can you just tell me about like what was the point or what was the kind of main thing that when you were doing paper, you were like, I need to change this. Like what were some like was it just like there was no more space or you were just getting to a point where it was just annoying you to have to refile? Like tell me about kind of the moment where you were like, I definitely need to change it, or was it kind of
Well,
gradual over time?
it was gradual. I mean, I'm very meticulous in my notes. So I just found that, instead of taking away from the appointment and, I like to give my full attention to the client. So, I would often just wait till the end of the day to write my notes. And I found myself often forgetting some of the things that we had discussed or failing to mention that in my reporting and then going back later and thinking like, oh God, I've already seen them twice. Like I forgot that, or, so I not as perfect as I wanted it to be. But as meticulous as I was trying to be, it kind of got away from me. And it got to a point where I felt like, okay, I can't really be with my client and also take notes. So I need an easier way of just also being with them, but also, quickly recalling what we're doing, what we might be discussing. And again, something that's more like just very simple where I wouldn't have to like think about, opening this file or clicking this button and wondering what this button does. I found that the other platforms were just a little bit too detailed and I just didn't need all of those things. So definitely it was time that got me the time factor. I wanted to get back into another platform based software. Um, the luxury of space and storage. I would store so many of my notes and I would not go back and read my files because they were like locked somewhere and the patients were coming in on a weekly basis. And I just thought, I'm like, I don't have time for this. And then I was also at a point in my career, or, the business was in a stage where I could afford, in the very beginning when I was paying for unified practice, it was a big chunk of my overhead. And I just felt that, well, I don't think I need this software when I'm seeing only about 10 to 15 people a week. But then I just felt like, okay, well, if you're seeing, 20 to 25 people a week, that's a lot of notes. So, over time, also it's a waste of paper. I wasn't really happy about that. So I mean, I could probably think of a few more things, but it was really, I hated wasting paper. Oh, not only that, but I had to reprint, all of my templates over and over and over. So that was an extra expense. So I figured, I'm like, well, if I'm going to be spending the money, I don't want to be using paper and wasting it. I might as well just invest in a digital platform where I can actually like go back and read my notes.
Hmm. And it seems like, yeah, you definitely wanted something that was simple. And so when you were like doing your day to day, you mentioned sometimes you forgot about, or something that the patient said and you weren't able to be present with your patient while you were like on paper. How did your day look in terms of, did you normally, because you said you have 20 to 25 like patients, was it you would go with them, treat them, and then go back into the room and try to finish your notes, or would you kind of do them mostly at the end of the day or at the end of the week? Like, how was your charting kind of system that you had in your paper?
Well, when I was on paper, I had a binder that I just carried with me from room to room. Um, I also realized that if that paper was out for everyone to see, there are privacy issues with that if I just let the wrong pair of eyes fall onto that form. Um, so I was really careful about carrying my binder around from room to room. But when you're working out of two or three rooms at the same time, a lot of times I would leave my binder, in one room, and I'm like going to treat someone in the second room, and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh. And so then it became, when I switched over to Happy Charting, I would have my laptop. Now, the good thing is that if I leave my laptop somewhere and I have to go back, again, having that digital record, my recall and typing all of the notes is much quicker than it would be by just writing it. So I found that to be more beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also the privacy aspect, you have a code, a 4-digit code that you have to enter. So if I were to leave my laptop somewhere, you know, no one's really going to see what I've been typing on Happy Charting because I have that password protection.
Yes, yes, it always times out after inactivity. So I love that. And so yeah, it is one of our biggest things that we talk about is kind of saving time, and you can manage to finish your chats like quicker. You don't have as much to do at the end of the day. And so, what was the biggest shift in experience for you in terms of from paper charting to happy charting? Did you, um, and what I mean by that is, do you think it cut down your time? If so, do you think like how much by? Did you kind of, were you able to finish them by the end of the day? Like, just give me a difference of like between before and after.
Uh, so before, okay, so in a month, every week you have clients that will come in on a regular basis. So then with the paper charting, I would always have that, I guess you could say, their file out. Um, and I never really filed it away. So I would just be adding on more, I guess, of my own templates. So it really it's like a 1 8 by 10 piece of paper that I wrote my notes on for the day. There's front and back for extra notes. So throughout the month, I would probably add 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of paper. But if that person were a regular client for that month, I'd keep their file out. Now it's just, the load is very heavy, because what if it's someone who comes in just on a maintenance schedule and they're coming in maybe once every 21 days. So I'd have their file, and if I didn't necessarily finish all my records, that file just stays sitting there behind all of those other pieces of paper until I'm ready to do that monthly filing or just organization for, when I have free time. So it just became a little hectic for a while, because I would notice like, okay, I have all these charts. I need to either finish them, sit down and finish them, which would take a long time at the end of a day when you just want to go home. And not only that, I would have to file them because of security issues, or just keep my binder somewhere safe or lug it home. And so that was a big annoyance for me. And notes took a long time. Again, you're writing, but I'm a Virgo, I'm very A type, organized. I don't want to scribble. I want to be very detailed. And I want to write notes in a way where I can recognize, immediately what I was trying to say or what I was doing. So then it makes sense to me, if I need to talk to insurance or talk to a patient about something. But when I switched over to Happy Charting, I have similar tendencies where, at the end of the long day, say if I saw 10 people in one day, 5 of those charts are completed, but I'm really tired and I want to just save the rest. On a Saturday, it's very typical that I don't finish all of my charting. So I'll save about maybe like 4 or 5 and I'll do it on a Sunday. But again, having just one laptop, instead of a binder full of pages, I can, another great thing is that, throughout the day, I can at least write some of the points that I've done or some of the things that I've noticed, like chief complaint or, some of the intake. And then basically my recall like brings me back to the session. So on a Sunday, again, I can just log in and then I can just finish, sign off. I love the signing off because then, it makes me double check all of my work, but it finalizes everything. So I love that I can save it for as many days as I want before I sign it. And it's not, but on paper, the more days that go by, the more you're going to forget or probably neglect to even finish the chart. Because I also have to do insurance on top of that. So yeah, I just think that there's so many benefits to staying digital because it's more convenient, it's quicker, it's more efficient.
And you sound like you are someone who likes like meticulous like
Oh,
system,
absolutely, absolutely.
very organized.
To a fault, to a fault. So a lot of this is my own, to my own detriment. But this is why I felt that I needed to get back into a very simplified note-taking system.
I
Yeah.
love that. And how does it, because we don't do insurance, how does it help you in terms of the insurance side?
Oh, I'm so happy that you asked this question. So I also work off of Square. That is my booking platform and my payment platform. So I have a lot of my patient data in the Square platform. So, the picture of their insurance card, their member ID, their group number, what I bill, what codes I use, I will put in Square. But that's on my phone, and I have my phone on me all the time. Now, when I'm on my computer and I'm filing an electronic claim, insurance claim, I have to literally go back into my phone, look up a member ID. But because I have happy charting and you have that section where you can actually create your own template of how, like, for, I guess, for the patient information, I've edited in so a way where I can also add their insurance income company and then also add their member ID. So I basically go into Happy Charting, I copy and paste even the patient file ID number. So I'm not really relying on my phone so much. I have all of the data. And again, it takes time because you have to transfer all that data or put it in. But I try to at least establish every new patient in a way where it's very important for me to have all of, like their date of birth, their email, their address, all of the insurance information that I might need. So I'm not opening multiple screens. I'm not going to my phone. I want everything in one place. So it's just very convenient for me from the time that I take the notes to the time that I submit the insurance claim. So Happy Charting has helped me tremendously with that aspect as well.
I love that. And that's a big reason why we too wanted to use to be standalone because we know that other people use all these different, maybe they're in love with their scheduler or they're really in love with Square and their payment system or whatever. And so we just do charting really well. And then, if you want to like kind of mingle them, you can, but you can also keep what you like to use and know that it works. So I love that you talked about that. Um, and so, do you use any of the reporting or anything like that for the insurance or anything like that, or is it mainly just the charting, like the main dashboard that you're on?
I'm not sure if I know what you mean. I just use
So you can
the
export reports like PDFs and things like that. Do you use that at all?
Oh, not yet. I still probably need to get somewhat more organized. So I have, the privacy protection form that they have to sign, their informed consent. Again, if I'm thinking of long term in trying to save space, I need to start scanning those documents and having it on file so that if I lose those forms or if I need to refer back to them, at least I'll have an image. So that's something that I do intend to start doing.
Great. And we can talk about things that I can help you with in terms of later if you need any help with that stuff.
Great.
But I wanted to ask you, how is your kind of when you were doing the research and you were looking at, I'm assuming, I don't know, I just get from the feeling that you're very thorough. Um, and when you found us, how was your experience starting like and learning the platform? Was it simple to you, or because you said you also created your own template, which honestly to me it's like having a star student. I'm just like, oh my god, I want to give her 5 gold stars. I'm just like, oh my gosh, she like created her own template. So how was that experience for you customizing and learning it?
It was exciting. Of course, with anything, there's a learning curve, and you truly, because people have also asked me about happy charting, and what I tell them, and these are not necessarily the most organized people, I'll tell them, you know what, this is very much something that you really need to put time and effort into if you are really invested in using your own template, if you know how you take notes and you want to present your notes in a specific way for you to reference in the future that makes sense to you, you are going to have to spend the time. So I probably did spend a good at least 3 hours dedicated to just creating my template, my treatment template, but also going into the intake, so the health history, the detailed health history form, because it was important for me to just ask all the questions that I felt would be relevant to how I practice. For example, I went over and over and kept editing it for a while during that free trial period. And I realized that, in other intakes that I've seen, there might be 100 questions dedicated to just a woman's, menstrual cycle and, has she gotten pregnant before and all this stuff. And I thought, well, these are not going to be questions that are so much relevant to how I practice because I don't really see a ton of fertility patients. So I felt that, okay, you know what, I can create a health history with just the basics that I need, but that can get more involved and I can take more notes as they get more involved in the questioning and answers. So that was really important to me too. So I spent quite a bit of time. So yes, I will take those 5 stars. I think I am a star student. I really wanted to create something special that I would really love.
I love that. And that's how we want it to be because we do feel like everyone's so specific with how they want to chart. And so I love that you spent that time because like I can create it for people and sometimes I do, but it's very much a collaboration because I have to ask you, how do you treat? How do you do your notes? And if you don't know that yet, it's maybe happy charting's a bit harder for you. You can always edit it as you go, but I think this time saving definitely comes after you've created it and then it's going to work for you over time. Um,
100%.
what is your favorite feature about happy charting?
My favorite feature. Okay, so this is my favorite feature, but I'm also very clumsy with the laptop that it can also be my worst enemy. I love how if you're seeing someone on a weekly basis, it's more than likely that you will perform the same treatment more than 2 or 3 times. So I love the double click on the last chart and you can copy and paste. Now, what I've done a few times, and I'm very careful not to do this anymore, is that there have been times where my hand might just be on the mouse pad, and I click after I've taken notes, and then it copies, and I've lost everything, and I have to do it over again. But that's maybe happened 2 or 3 times. But since then, I make sure that I do not do that anymore.
I
So
love that.
so that's my favorite feature. It makes it very convenient, but also if I don't stray too much from a treatment, but it varies a little bit, I can double click and then edit it as I see fit, which again is a huge time saver for me.
Hmm. Yeah, for the people, because we do have people who also are like probably more clumsy and like aren't able to stop themselves. We have a little like pop up that tells them before it goes over, so they don't do that.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, no, and that was my thought. I said, I wonder if anyone has suggested that, like, do you really want to do this?
Yeah, yeah. We do have that. I can show you later. But I love that. Like, as in, like, it's one of our biggest things is like how we can save time. And obviously, with paper, you do after 20 patients a week, over and over again, you're writing so much of the same things over and over and over again, especially if they're regular. So, I love the repeat treatment as well. Um,
Yeah.
Cool. So, would you happen to know? I just asked this for my own curiosity. How much time you used to chat? Probably on average, like per day or per week, when you are using paper.
Um, my gosh. Okay, so for every patient, I would say I'm charting for at least 5 to 8 minutes.
Wow. Okay. And then, uh, with happy chatting, how long do you take per patient?
Oh, sorry, correction. 5 to 8 minutes for a follow-up. Now, um, for initial and I still take notes for the initial because sometimes my chicken scratch is just much quicker than doing things in happy charting because again, like I'm very organized and I want things to go in the right place. But so the initial probably it could be 20 minutes. So it was a considerable amount of time, but on average 5 to 8 minutes. But with happy charting, I've probably cut it down. Well, I mean, there's also hand fatigue, right? We're acupuncturists, so we don't. My wrist would be killing me after taking a ton of notes. So with typing, it's effortless. I could do that all day, and I'm very quick. So with happy charting, I mean, maybe 2 to 3 minutes, but again, it's something that I can go back to back and forth. And there's no fatigue, there's no user fatigue.
Mm. And how much for an initial intake is it about the same?
For the initial, I still do use paper. Uh, and then what I do is that I transfer it on to happy charting later.
Mhm.
Um, just because when I'm doing I guess the transcription process, to me in my mind, that also gets me thinking about future treatments or further questions that I might want to ask them with the follow up. Um, so that really is that's aside from just note taking in itself, but and it has nothing to do with happy charting. It's just my own process, but it does make it pain free in terms of, obviously if I'm taking notes by hand, I want to end as soon as possible because of fatigue.
Mhm. And I think too, when you're writing the hand by the hand now with happy chatting, it's chicken scribble, like you said. You don't really need to worry about how it looks because you'll be able to read it and then place it in later.
Yes, or edit it really.
Right, yeah. As opposed to when you're doing it by hand, maybe you'd have to do it again, or maybe it's a little illegible, or you'd have to make sure that you write it quite
Right.
fast
Correct.
on camera.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Awesome. And how many, I just want to know with the initial intake, like how often you do that, how many kind of new patients, like on average, do you get like per week or per month? Is that quite common and you have to sit down and do that whole process?
I find myself, and again, I've spent so much time doing that initial template for the intake that I want to use it more and more. But there are sometimes people come in and they say, "Oh, I have shoulder pain and I was playing tennis and I just moved the wrong way." I mean, other acupuncturists might say, like, I can't believe you just admitted that. But for me, a lot of times I live in New York City and everyone feels that time is a luxury. I don't need to ask them a million questions about who they are and their lifestyle in order to treat their shoulder. So a lot of times I will learn more about them on session 3, 4, 5 that I find myself going back and adding it piecemeal by piecemeal, that it creates a more comprehensive intake without having that person just sit there and divulge their whole like life history to me. Um, so that's another aspect that I really appreciate.
I do love that too, yeah, because when you got the binders and the paper, it's a lot harder to go back and like add stuff as you go to this like one place every time you pull up a patient. Now it's like here. And I agree because I think also too when people have that big initial intake, they can forget a lot of things. But when you're on session 3 or 4, they're just talking to you and telling stuff about you, and you learn a lot as you go. Um,
Yes.
I love that. So we're about to end. I wanted to ask, was there anything that I didn't ask about that you wanted to say or cover?
Um, no, I really enjoyed this time talking to you about this. I think you have a fabulous product, and I hope you don't change it too much. I really love the simplified aspect of it. Um, but I'm really looking forward to seeing how this product evolves or the changes that you make, and I'm always happy to provide feedback. This has been nice.
This has been really great. I have loved speaking with you, and I really am wanting to keep with the simplified. Like that's kind of our point of difference. And to me, I'm like, acupuncturists aren't software people. Like they're not technical. It's not like I don't want you guys spending a lot of time learning features or doing anything else. If anything, it would just be more feedback from, people who use it already. And then if there's something that we could do to make it easier in some way, like maybe just integrate it with Square a little bit, or maybe something with how you guys work. But no, I don't want to change it either, just because, yeah, I think the value is in its simplicity. So
Yeah. I mean, I think if there was just one addition, I wouldn't mind, and not that I need it because again, I'm very descriptive in my notes, but in case there were ever an opportunity to add just, an outline of the body where I'd be able to just, either use an iPad or just indicate that it's the right side of the body that they have the headache on or something like that. Again, that's starting to get a little bit more where you'd probably take time away from the patient to be doing that. It's not absolutely necessary, which is another thing that I appreciate. But I guess if I were just to get like a little bit fancier, like I would suggest adding that in, but it's probably it's probably something that I shouldn't get too involved in because then it'll take away time from the patient.
no, no, no. I love that suggestion, and that's definitely on the development roadmap.
I figured.
Not the only one who, yeah, wants like a body and wants to be able to draw on it. I love that. Cool. So, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. If you could just have one word to say, like, what kind of acupuncturist do you think happy charting would work for? If you could just put it in like one sort of sentence.
Um, one word.
Oh, one sentence, not one word. That's very hard.
Um,
But like, if you were to describe like for what kind of acupuncturist who's like looking out there and they're like, I don't know if happy charting is the right software. I don't know if it would work for me. Who would you say it would work for?
I think that happy charting would work for anybody who uh, is just looking for a simple, straightforward method of charting with none of the bells and whistles. And I don't mean that in a negative way. The bells and the whistles are too much. Maybe some people like that. But personally, for me, I just want to be a good acupuncturist and I want to take really good notes. And um, the notes that I look back on 6 months or from a year ago, I really like having that same structure that happy charting gives me. So again, something very simple, something very organized, and just overall easy. Someone who just wants something very simple and easy.
I love that. And I love that you've talked about how it's improved your quality, because that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to keep it fast, but to maintain the quality of the charting and the note taking. Like, that's really important. Like you can go fast and have crappy notes, or someone will read it and be like, I don't know what you did.
Exactly.
Treatment. Or like insurance companies will be like, or like, auditors or whatever, they'll be like, no, and that's, I know people, they're frustrated, they don't want to do charting, it's part of the admin business side. But what I love listening to you is you really are using it as a way for you to become a better practitioner. um
Absolutely. And it's not intimidating. Happy charting has never really been intimidating for me. Unified practice was very intimidating. It was very difficult to get through a charting process. I mean, there are just too many functions and boxes and yeah, it was fancy, but it's not what acupuncture is about.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much for your time, Katie.
All right, thank you so much. Hope to hear from you soon.